Hey everyone, and welcome to the next interview in the series, Nutrition is the Gateway to Your Optimal Self. And this is the third interview, so we're coming on nicely. And today I'm chatting to Talia Berryman. I met Talia when I was at Rawfest, festival about vegan, raw food, wellness, a few weeks ago. And I loved the message she had to share. A real vegan wellness advocate. So I'm just going to hand over to Talia just to add anything you want to there before we kick off with the sort of questions and things.
Yeah, so I've been vegan for about 1 year and 6 months, so not too long. But I'd say that I have enough experience of the vegan diet and lifestyle to be able to talk about it. And personally, I went through a lot of problems before I went vegan. So for me, I'm just trying to spread my message. And I think I come at it from a different angle. So on social media, on YouTube and Instagram, I try and spread my story and try and help people not only to become vegan, but to be healthy and to enjoy life and to become the best people they can be.
And what I loved about what you said there is that you come at it from a different angle, because there are so many angles and there are so many ways that people can connect with this movement as such. And so, yeah, I think you said, even in your little introduction, to something that's just, really profound. So, okay, so, I mean, the title of this series is Nutrition is the Gateway to Your Optimal Self. And so when you hear that phrase, those words, what comes to mind for you?
As the optimal self, I see it not just as being physically healthy, but being mentally healthy and being happy. For me, the key thing is happiness. So your optimal self, it's all about excelling in the way that you want to excel, not just being happy with yourself, but being happy in your life and the situation around you. And nutrition being the gateway, I think this really implies that nutrition is the first thing you need to look at before you look at, if you're on any medication, before you look at, the people in your life. Nutrition, I think, is where it should start, because it's really important. What you put in your body really affects your mind, your physical health. And I think that nutrition is just an area that we really ignore in society today. Usually people go to the doctors, and if they have a problem, they'll immediately put you on antibiotics. They don't even ask that many questions nowadays. Or they'll put you on antidepressants or whatever they think you need. They never actually look at people's diets. Now we're in a society when it's more about fixing the problem or kind of masking the symptoms, rather than actually getting to the core of the problem and actually fixing the problem. So now if someone is really overweight, the first thing they think, well, not the first thing, but a major thing they do is, maybe you need to have a gastric band or something, rather than thinking, maybe you should actually think about the food you're eating. Or if people have cancer, people think, you need chemotherapy, you need, to take all these pills. Whereas there have been so many studies that have shown that actually cancer and other diseases, heart disease, diabetes, are actually related to not just genes, but the environment as well. And what we put in our body really affects how our body reacts and how our body thrives, doesn't thrive, just how our body is in general.
So true. And it's interesting because almost the more you start looking into nutrition and what it can assist with, and the amount of things that relate to nutrition, it just opens up.
It's crazy.
More and more. And it's, that's related. And even if you can't cure something, or the amount of symptoms that can be relieved and to a certain extent cured through nutrition, it's just astounding.
Yeah.
I mean, what would be really interesting to know a bit more about, because this is what really sort of drew me to you, and when I heard your talk, is your own kind of backstory, I guess, in terms of nutrition. What brought you into this lifestyle, and I guess where were you before?
Yeah, so where I was before is I had really bad mental health issues for about 7 years, but really badly with the past kind of 2-3 years before I went vegan. I was going through really bad depression, suicidal thoughts, anxiety. And I went to, when it was kind of towards the end, when I really was getting really down, really couldn't cope, I went to the doctors, and I was 17 at the time. And they immediately said, we'll put you on antidepressants. And I thought, as a 17-year-old girl, even though I was in that state and I really couldn't find a way out, I thought, do you know what? Antidepressants aren't the way out. I don't want to get, addicted or reliant or dependent on this foreign chemical, and I don't want my body to kind of expect that to be the norm. So I tried loads of kind of talking therapies and loads of kind of natural ways to kind of relieve depression, kind of talking about it, things like that, and nothing seemed to have worked. So I kind of just plodded along, kept going, and just nothing would get better. But I resisted the antidepressants. I said to my doctor, look, I'm not going to. So then I just had to have regular appointments with the doctor every week to just see how I was doing. But the problem wasn't solved. I kept going. And then I went to university because I thought, oh, I'll be far away from my family, 300, 400 miles away. All my problems will be solved. I'll be on my own. I won't have school. I'll have the freedom of university. But actually, it got so much worse just because even though I had friends, when you're depressed, you don't really want to talk to anyone about it. You just kind of feel like you don't want to be a burden. I was far away from my family, so I didn't have, even though I had their support kind of on the phone, I couldn't really, some days I didn't want to talk to them, and I really isolated myself, whereas I should have been, when I was in that state, I should have been talking to them every single day. And in reality, I was just isolating myself more and more to the point where I couldn't cope. And 2 months through university, I had to drop out because, I didn't know if it was the course, or I just really had to focus on my mental health. No matter what society says, you have to go to university, you have to get through it. I thought, you know what? I have to focus on my mental health. I need to get better because I can't keep, I physically couldn't keep going like that. So then I dropped out and, I started working. I worked in a pub for a while, hated it. And then I got a job in London working as a receptionist. And kind of 3 months in, I was getting a bit better. Maybe it's because maybe I was removed from the pressure of university. So I was slowly starting to get better, but I wasn't, cured. I was kind of feeling better, but the problem was still there. I was just kind of ignoring the problem. So then it got to March and I went on a night out with my boyfriend at the time, and I had 2 portions of cheesy chips with mayonnaise because this was always my drunk food. Whenever I was drunk, it was cheesy chips and mayonnaise, because at the time I was pescatarian for about 8 years. I wasn't on the chicken nuggets, but it was cheesy chips and mayonnaise. I had 2 portions. I woke up in the morning really hungover, feeling sick because of all the dairy and all the nasty things in the food, and I just thought, I can't do this to myself anymore. I need to sort myself out. There's no point in making myself worse and worse. I needed to do something, and it was so urgent at that moment. I just woke up and I was like, right, I'm going vegan. That's it. Because before the past 6 months, I'd heard of the idea, and I didn't cook so much dairy myself or fish, but when I went out, I did eat it, and I'd eat healthy most of the time, but it was what I thought was healthy at the time. It was really small portions. I'd have a smoothie, but it would be half a banana, 2 handfuls of spinach and water, which is less than 100 calories. And I expected that to keep me through till lunchtime. And then for lunch, I'd have 1 mango or a small salad. And then for dinner, I would have, lots of veggies, a few carbohydrates, but it ended up I was eating hardly anything, and I'd get to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and I'd absolutely binge on everything. Just ridiculous amounts of food. And it was things like nut butters, falafels, hummus, which are so healthy in moderation. But I used to get through a kilogram of peanut butter in a week. And that, that wasn't on its own. That would be with dates, with crackers. So I was a bit out of control. I'd eat so little during the day, and then at night I'd just get these huge hunger cravings. I was just not mentally healthy. But after a few weeks, I kind of learned to eat what before I thought was unhealthy. I always thought that carbs were unhealthy. But then I started eating more, and I started taking care of myself. And within 2 weeks, I had really bad eczema at the time. My eczema literally cleared up, and I was taking this steroid cream that the doctor gave me, which just, instead of being red, the eczema would just be dry, and I'd have to keep applying it every 2 hours. And the eczema was there, it wasn't going away. As I said earlier, the symptoms were just being covered up. So, the eczema wasn't gone. 2 weeks of being vegan, and it literally disappeared. Wow. So that was crazy. That was like the first thing, and it was like it wasn't even like a mental benefit, but the fact that I saw the physical benefits straight away was just like, I can't believe how crazy this, how much of an impact this diet and what you eat can have on your life. Because I'm pretty sure it was the dairy, because since then I've read loads of studies and it's shown that dairy is really key for chronic eczema. So that was the first benefit. And then a few months passed and I realised that actually I hadn't had what I called a depressive episode, which is, I'd have a complete mental breakdown, not be able to get out of bed, or I'd be crying and crying and just, I wouldn't have a reason as to why I was crying. I just was. But I realised, a few months passed and I was like, I haven't had a single, situation of this. And I hadn't self-harmed in a while, which I used to do not so much regularly, but it did happen from time to time. And I just thought, I've come so far. And the only thing I can attribute this to is to veganism, because that's the only thing I changed realistically. So for me, veganism has completely helped my mental health. Now I can say I wouldn't say I'm perfectly healthy, because everyone has down days from time to time, every few weeks, every few months. Everyone kind of feels a bit stuck in the rut, if you get what I mean. But I would say I'm completely cured of depression, hands down, because it's been, a year and a half now, and I don't feel down, I don't feel suicidal. It's just crazy. I don't get anxious anymore. I'm so much more confident. I'm so much more happy with myself. I'm so content. I'm really just happy and excited all the time. But at the same time, inside of me, I can feel this kind of, it sounds weird, but like a zen, like a calm zen. And I'm just like, I'm doing the right thing. Even though I can be crazy and energetic and hyper, I just feel so grounded and so, like, I'm so self-assured and aware of myself and aware that I am okay, I'm a human being, I'm happy, I'm healthy. And it's just the best feeling. I can't even describe how good this feeling is. Just feeling just at peace with yourself and at one with yourself, and actually understanding your body and your mind. It's a great feeling.
No, there's so many things that we could, as you were talking, I think, oh yeah, I just picked up. And it's just, and so it all stems from this kind of cheesy chips episode where it's like, right, so when you talk about like a year and a half, is that since that time?
Yeah.
And so literally there was, you kind of had, it's so funny how it can be anything that causes this trigger. Because one of my sort of questions was going to be, what was the kind of aha moment or the trigger point or whatever, and it seems to be kind of, enough was enough, kind of thing.
It sounds so stupid, because a lot of people maybe go vegan because, if it's for ethical reasons, they watch slaughterhouse footage, or maybe someone in their family has died from a disease that veganism has been proved to kind of cure or prevent. But for me, I just felt terrible one morning, and it just seemed the only way out. I just thought, right, I'll completely change it up. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I might as well try it, because nothing else was working. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of the final tipping point, and it was kind of my last resort in a way. I just thought, I've heard people who've been vegan. I didn't know anyone personally in real life. It was just people I'd read articles about or I watched videos on, and I just felt, what, I have to give it a go. And it may work, it may not, but there's no harm in trying.
Yes, yeah, it's so interesting as well, because I guess from what you're saying, you went vegan, but it was kind of the health reasons, the clean, because I mean the majority of the interviews I'm doing are centered around kind of a plant-based diet, but not exclusively. A lot of it is just really packing in the whole foods, of which obviously a whole food vegan diet is the epitome of, and and how quickly, I mean 2 weeks to see changes in your body. And obviously if you've got the physical changes, it keeps the momentum up. It's like, it makes your brain think that something's good about this, which is exactly what happened to me. I noticed physical changes in terms of how much energy I had, how much I needed, how much, and I made me think, there's something in this, and it gave me the incentive to really begin exploring it properly and really understanding what it was what environment I was creating for myself through nutrition. And that's there's a lot of beauty in that.
First few days when I went vegan, I was really tired all the time, And I don't know if this was because I was removing something from my body and it was healing. That's why I kind of attribute it to now. But at the time, I just thought I was tired. I didn't really think about it. But I think looking back now, it was kind of the detox effects. But once I got past, I think it was about 5 days, once I got past that and feeling tired, and I slept a lot, maybe like 12 hours a day. After that, I just had so much energy and it picked up really quickly. And then after, I was vegan for health reasons. That's why I went vegan. But then quite soon after, I kind of started to research, and it was more for ethical reasons. So for now, as much as I try to follow a whole foods diet, I'd rather eat some vegan junk food from time to time than eat like a piece of fish or a piece of meat or some dairy. So for me, now the thing stringing me along is ethical reasons, but I still try and take care of my health because I feel so much better when I'm eating whole foods. I still, even if I'm eating kind of vegan junk foods or not predominantly whole foods, I still feel better than I did on a meat eating or pescatarian diet. But definitely eating whole foods, it sends your energy through the roof. It's crazy, and it just makes you feel so good all the time. So for me now, it's kind of ethical reasons, but the health aspect is still a huge part of my life.
And it's funny because some of the words you've mentioned, over the last sort of few minutes, I think the energy and the confidence, the self-confidence, is a crazy one, because you'd never really think, oh, eat whole foods and I gain more confidence. It seems so crazy, but in the title of this series, your optimum self is very much this whole mind-body connection. Our entire lives are this real balance, optimizing the mind-body, and nutrition ticks both boxes profoundly. You get one and you can't not get the other, really.
And it's really difficult to understand unless you've actually done it. Before I went vegan, I never thought, I'd have more energy. When people say, oh yeah, I went vegan and I've got lots of energy, I don't have to sleep too much, I thought, what are you talking about? It doesn't make sense. How can what you eat affect your energy? Everyone needs to sleep 8 hours a day, and the more you sleep, kind of the better you feel. And then as soon as I went vegan, it was crazy. I can now sleep for about 6 hours and still be okay. Obviously like 8 hours, like usually I have 7.5 hours is kind of a good time. But because I still go out sometimes, but I can go to bed, have 6 hours sleep, sometimes even 5 hours sleep, and still function the next day and go and study or whatever. So it's the effects are unexplainable. You can't explain it until you try it.
That's one of the things I noticed, because I was like, oh, it's 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm about to get out of bed. Okay, I might as well get up. It was like really quite bizarre, because I hadn't done that. I mean, I was sort of an accidental vegan, as people sort of what I didn't know, but it just crept up on me. I was like, wow, there's something in this. This is crazy. All these good things happening that that can't be down to anything other than nutrition. And so that's what really triggered my interest in understanding about a plant-based whole food diet. So one of my other big questions, this is fascinating to me, is where do you feel as though the future of nutrition will be in the future of this kind of mind-body understanding and acceptance potentially?
I personally think that currently we're in a society where it's really kind of pioneered by junk food and by technology and by quite a lazy lifestyle. We watch lots of TV, we spend all our time kind of glued to our mobile phones and our computers. And I think, as one of the statistics is, we are kind of the first generation that will probably live a shorter life than our parents. And I think it's really down to our lifestyle. So in terms of nutrition and well-being, I think that it's going to get to a point when we're so removed from like our natural state of being and nature that there's going to be like an immediate shift like that. And we're going to go back and people are going to start eating healthier. People are going to be turning away from kind of medicine, antibiotics, and looking for natural cures to things. People are really going to care about spending time with their friends and family rather than, online. So I think, maybe by 2020, 2025, in a few years' time, there's going to be a huge crisis. And people are just going to realise that they're not really appreciating life as kind of they should. and especially with the environmental situation. I mean, if we carry on like we are now, there are going to be fishless oceans by 2048. That's not dawning on us yet because, you know, it's in 30 years' time. As we get closer to closer, and information about the environment and the state of animals and global warming and things like that, as that information becomes more widely available, because at the moment we're really shielded from that information from the government, and we're not told about these things. We have to go and look for the facts. So I think this information by either small environmental agencies, small animal activist groups, or even the government is going to have to tell us eventually. And we are in a huge problem. Like, we're going towards a really kind of a destroyed world in a way, and our environment's being destroyed. So I think that as it kind of dawns on us and it gets closer to that time, there's going to be a point where, you know, you can't buy meat in the supermarket. You know, it will be rationed, or it'll be a lot more expensive because we simply can't afford to be destroying our environment. So I think, you know, you see kind of the health shops popping up, and you see, you know, some people are more interested in nutrition. I think that maybe in the past 5 years or so, the past 3 years, there's been a growing interest, probably due to social media and the rise in kind of, you know, like the whole Deliciously Ella lifestyle, that mainstream kind of people who, you know, usually it would be hippies that looked into health and well-being, and it was people who, you know, didn't wear shoes and who wore really hippie garments and that didn't live a normal life. But I think now generic people in society, you know, people who have 9-to-5 jobs, who have kids, who use a car, they're really looking into their health. So I think that there are small changes, and, you know, instead of there being a free from aisle in the supermarket, you know, just a small section, there's going to be aisles and aisles of free from food, and people are going to look to organic produce, non-GMO, a more natural way of being, and people are going to turn away from the junk foods. So I think that, you know, we're not there yet. We're not in a vegan world or a fully health conscious world. But I think give it 5, 10, maybe it will be 20 years. And I think that, you know, now the population, I think there's only 1, 2, 3% that are vegan, vegetarian. I think give it a few years, and because of situations in our environment and our society, we're going to have a majority vegan population. You know, it might take a while, but I genuinely think that that's where we're moving towards.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's funny you're saying about the, you know, instead of a couple of aisles, we'll have aisles and aisles. So I think we'll have entire supermarkets.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Whole Foods, but that'll be like on a mass scale. And I think as well that, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, and it's, for me, it feels almost equally frightening and exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting what this huge shift will create, but in order for it to happen, it's almost got like crash to come out, and that's a scary thought. Yeah, that we have to get to that point almost to come out the other side. But yeah, so I guess in sort of wrapping things up, I'm just thinking, we talked for so long, but we've had so much ground as well, which is amazing. If there were 1, 2, 3 kind of top things that you would want to share with someone who's looking to sort of step into their optimal self, you know, really deepen that mind-body connection, what would you want to share?
The first tip, which I think is kind of obvious, is to go vegan. Because anyone can do it, no matter what your situation is in society, whether you have a family, whether you're old, whether you're young, whether you work a regular job, or whether you work, you know, you're self-employed, anyone can do it. And I'd say just try it for a month, because you have nothing to lose. We live for so long nowadays, you know, 70, 80 years. 1 month is hardly anything, but it's enough to see the changes and the benefits. And, you know, if you mess up one day, you accidentally eat something, you mess up, take each day kind of as a new step towards your better self, your optimal self in a way. So definitely try it. There are so many resources on the internet. Anyone can reach out to me. I always say, you know, on my YouTube channel, on my Instagram, if anyone wants help, I am more than happy to give help, you know, advice, anything like that. You know, I really like to help people. So there's that. There's so many recipes online. There's so many tips. So I personally, I went vegan overnight, and for me it was fine. Some people, my mum, she's been pescatarian for a while, but she's gradually kind of cut down, and she's pretty much, I'd say she's even though she's not saying it, she's 99% vegan now. The only time she's not vegan is if she eats out and there is no other option, which usually there is to anyone who's watching. So yeah, so some people kind of need to cut out the meat and then cut out the fish and then cut out the dairy and then cut out the things like honey and stuff. But I think if there's one thing you do is just try going vegan. If it's not for a month, it can be for a week, but just try it and see how your body reacts. The second tip is try and believe in yourself and give yourself the confidence to do whatever you want to do, because not just with kind of vegan and health, but you need to be able to have the confidence to, you know, when you go out, you need to be able to say to people, you know, I don't want to have chips today, I'll just have a salad, or I'll just have vegetables. And it's having the confidence that you're doing the right thing. Don't be put off by, you know, family members. A lot of the time it's kind of the older generations, I'd say, that have a lot of skepticism because, you know, all their lives this is all they've known, you know, standard, they call it a standard American diet, you know, all the junk food, all the meat and the dairy and the animal products. I'd say have the confidence to know that what you're doing is the right thing. Don't listen to what society tells you, because let's be honest, society isn't perfect, and you know, it's like 1/3 of people are obese and like another third of people are overweight in society. And I'm not saying completely shun doctors' opinions, but there are GPs that smoke, there are GPs that are overweight, and how can you trust the advice of someone who isn't a living, breathing example of what they advocate? That's why I really look into social media and things, people online, because I think that if someone is practicing what they preach, then that's when you know it kind of works. And a lot of the time doctors, they have something like an hour of nutrition maximum a week of nutrition training, and they actually shouldn't give you nutritional advice. They're actually not allowed. They're supposed to send you to a nutritionist or a dietitian if you ever go to them with nutrition advice. So I'd say do your research, look at nutritionists, in particular plant-based nutritionists, people like yourself, like Dr. Michael Greger. I think he's a great advocate at nutritionfacts.org. He has an answer to everything. So the second tip is to be really confident, know what you're doing is the right thing no matter what anyone else says, because sometimes we can get put down by friends or family members that think, oh, vegan, what's that? You're just going through a phase, you know. So really be confident. And a third tip would be listen to your body, because it's a thing we all ignore. If we think, oh, we should be eating a whole foods plant-based diet, or we see people who eat lots of carbs or raw food, or kind of a mix of the two, like a high carb, low fat diet. There's so many, I wouldn't say fads necessarily out there, but listen to your body. If you're eating, you know, for me, a raw food diet isn't optimal, a fully raw diet, even though I do incorporate a lot of raw foods into my life. But I only found this out by trying it myself. You know, you listen to loads of people and I thought, oh, raw food, you know, that seems like to be the best diet. But for me, I do a lot of exercise usually, and I'm really busy. For me, my body kind of kept saying, no, I don't really like this. So definitely listen to your body. And if the food doesn't make you feel great, don't feel like you eat it just because you're healthy, you know, because it says it's healthy. If someone says, you know, say, let me give an example. Someone says, you know, eat spinach, whatever, and you try spinach and your body doesn't like it, try something else. Try kale, try different types of lettuce. So even though there's a set kind of list of foods or idea of foods that we think are healthy, just see how your body reacts to them. Some people work really well on potatoes and pasta, others don't, because it makes them feel really heavy and really kind of groggy. So definitely listen to your body and don't just do what people say, do what your body tells you and what is good for your mind as well, because there's no point in depriving yourselves of things like cake, chocolate, things like that. If you're going to feel deprived and you're going to feel, you know, unhappy all the time, have a piece of cake, have some chocolate. Just make sure it's kind of the healthiest version you can, rather than just going to the supermarket and buying, you know, dairy milk with Oreos or something. You know, try and either make chocolate yourself or have dark chocolate, or, you know, if you're going to have a sweet treat, I always tell people, try and have the healthiest version of it first. And if that's still not satisfying your craving, you know, then look at other alternatives. But it's always about trying to make things as healthy as possible, but still indulgent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
3 very long-winded tips.
Yeah, I like the last 2 in particular. I mean, you know, the confidence and the listening to your body, those 2, they go hand in hand, because, you know, once you start trusting yourself a little bit more, your body will allow, you know, they kind of, you know, kind of do this in a way, and then it spins off into other areas of your life. You know, you have confidence in yourself in standing up to someone in a conversation, or
exactly.
You know, so just tuning into yourself and kind of like listening inside, as opposed to just taking all the, you know, take information from the outside, but actually work out what that means for you and how that relates to you and what you want to do with that information.
Yeah. And I definitely think you can relate this to other areas of your life.
Yeah, totally.
Like the whole listening to your body, listening to your mind, I found it's really useful with friends or people in your life. Like I always say, and it's the same with food, if something isn't nourishing you, if something isn't making you feel the best, you don't need it in your life. You need to get that out of your life. If something's bringing you down, you don't need it. And, you know, sounds really bad, but there are people who I've kind of taken a step back from, just because spending time with them made me feel bad about myself or didn't make me feel great. There are so many people out there nowadays, you know, so many people that I've connected with, especially over kind of health and veganism. And you kind of need to listen to your mind. If something, or say you're doing an activity, you know, say you're doing too much in your life and it's making you feel down, you have to tune in and think, I'm doing all these things and it's making me stressed out. What thing isn't making me fully happy? Because I don't think we should do things, we should force ourselves to do things just because we think it's the right thing to do. We should do things because it's what we want to do and what we love and enjoy doing.
I love it. It's like a whole other topic in itself. So, all the time. So, but I could talk about this kind of thing for ages.
Yeah, or for hours. Literally, I could talk about it for hours.
So, if there's any, if people want to connect with you directly, and sort of to further the conversation, or just, you know, if they kind of think, wow, you know, I love it, I want to connect. Where can they find you? So
I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat. I kind of just post on YouTube. I post videos to help people go vegan, kind of videos of what I'm eating, recipe videos, most commonly asked questions, because a lot of people, when they first go vegan, they're being bombarded by questions from other people. So I try and help people and give them information that they can pass on to others, and questions about, because veganism isn't just about the diet, it's the lifestyle as well. So kind of about vegan body and makeup products, vegan clothing, things like that. On Instagram, I post pictures of what I'm eating every single day, guaranteed. So lots of food, where to find vegan food, kind of restaurants and things I cook myself. And on Snapchat, I don't post too regularly, but it's kind of what I'm doing. If I go somewhere cool, people I'm hanging out with, food I'm making, exercise, things like that. So for all the platforms, it's Vegantidote, kind of antidote with veg on the front. So VEGANTIDOTE. Yeah, so that's kind of my social media name. And I chose that name because I really think veganism is an antidote, is a medicine for all parts of life, not just for your body, but for your mind as well. So that's why I chose that name. Perfect. And what a brilliant end to our little chat. So thank you so much. It's been lovely. Thank you for having me. It's been lovely. Thank you.